Just a heads up, there are only a few ads in the first 20 minutes, and after that, it's all completely ad-free. I hope you'll give this video a chance because I truly believe you won't find stories quite like these anywhere else. Story 1. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every clock in the town of Grayston stopped. Not slowed, not malfunctioned. Stopped. Digital clocks froze. Analog clocks stopped ticking. Phones stopped updating. Even the giant electronic clock above the old train station locked onto the same numbers. 2:17 a.m. But no one in Grayston noticed. Because at that exact moment, every person in town fell asleep. All 4,892 residents. At once. The only man awake. Officer Daniel Carter was the only person still awake in Grayston. Mostly because he wasn't supposed to be there. Carter was a highway patrol officer driving through the county on a routine night shift. His car rolled slowly along the empty road just outside town when something strange happened. His radio suddenly burst with static, then died. The headlights flickered, and the digital clock on his dashboard froze. 2:17 a.m. Carter frowned. "Great," he muttered. He tapped the dashboard. The clock didn't move. Then he noticed something else. The road ahead was completely empty. Too empty. A silent town. Grayston should have been awake. Not bustling. Small towns never are at night, but alive. A gas station open. A truck driving by. Someone walking their dog. Instead, nothing moved. Carter turned onto Main Street. The town looked normal at first. Streetlights glowed softly. Storefront windows reflected the empty road. Cars sat parked along the sidewalks. But something felt wrong. Deeply wrong. The first clue. Carter stopped outside Dawson's Diner. The neon sign still buzzed. The lights inside were on, but the front door stood slightly open. He stepped out of his patrol car. The air felt strange. Heavy. Like the world itself had paused. Carter pushed the diner door open. The bell above it jingled. Inside, 6 people sat in the booths. All of them asleep. Frozen mid-moment. One man slumped over a half-eaten burger. A woman sat with a coffee cup still in her hand. A waitress leaned against the counter. Her eyes closed. Her body perfectly still. Carter walked closer. "Hello." No one moved. He touched the woman's shoulder. Her skin was warm. Her breathing slow and steady. Just sleeping. Every single person in the diner was asleep. At the exact same moment. The clock on the wall. Carter looked up at the diner clock. It read 2:17 a.m. and it wasn't moving. He checked his watch. Also 2:17. His phone. Same time. No signal. No internet. Just frozen numbers. Carter slowly stepped outside again. Something was terribly wrong with Grayston. The entire town. He drove deeper into town. And the pattern continued everywhere. The gas station clerk slept behind the counter. A dog lay asleep in the middle of the road. 2 teenagers sat in a parked car, both slumped forward. Every house Carter checked. Every person he found. They were all asleep. And none of them would wake up. The hospital. Finally Carter drove to the town hospital. If anyone could explain what was happening, it would be the doctors. The emergency room doors slid open automatically. Inside, the same silence waited. Doctors asleep in chairs. Nurses collapsed against walls. Patients lying peacefully in beds. Even the machines monitoring their heartbeats had frozen clocks. 2:17 a.m. The entire town had been locked in time. The only working thing. Carter sat in the hospital lobby trying to think. His radio was dead. Phones didn't work. Every clock was frozen. Except for one thing. The television mounted in the corner. The screen flickered softly. Static filled the channel. But the TV was still running. Carter walked closer. The static suddenly cleared, and the news broadcast appeared. But the news wasn't normal. The camera showed Grayston from above. Aerial footage of the sleeping town. Carter frowned. Where is this coming from? Then the camera zoomed in. Closer. Closer. Until the screen showed the hospital entrance. And then, the camera showed him. Standing in the lobby. Watching the television. Carter slowly looked up at the ceiling. Somewhere above the town. Something was watching Grayston. Watching everyone sleep. And watching the only man still awake. The message. The television screen flickered again. The camera view disappeared. Black text slowly appeared across the screen. 3 simple words. Do not wake them. Carter stared at the message. What? The words changed. A new sentence appeared. If you wake them, IT will see you. Carter felt a cold chill run down his spine. See me? The television screen flickered one last time. Then the final message appeared. IT is almost here. At that exact moment, something enormous moved across the sky above Grayston, and outside the hospital windows, the street lights went out, one by one. The last street light outside the hospital flickered once, then died. Darkness swallowed the road. Officer Daniel Carter stood frozen in the hospital lobby, staring at the television screen. The warning message still glowed faintly. Do not wake them. His mind raced. Someone, or something, was watching the town, and it had just warned him not to wake anyone. But the message had said something worse. If you wake them, it will see you. Carter slowly walked to the hospital window. Outside, Grayston had become completely silent. Even the insects had stopped making noise. The town looked like a photograph frozen in time. Cars parked in the streets. Houses glowing with porch lights. Thousands of people asleep inside them. And somewhere above it all, something was coming. The first sound. At first Carter thought it was thunder. A deep rumbling noise rolled across the sky. Low. Heavy. But it didn't fade like thunder normally would. Instead, it grew louder. Carter stepped outside the hospital doors. The cold night air wrapped around him. He looked up. The sky above Grayston was cloudless. Stars filled the darkness, but something moved among them. Something massive, blocking the stars as it passed. Something in the sky. Carter narrowed his eyes. At first it looked like a shadow moving across the sky. Then the shadow stopped, and slowly began descending. His stomach tightened. Whatever it was enormous, far larger than any aircraft he had ever seen. And it moved silently. No engines, no lights, just a giant shape lowering itself toward the sleeping town. The shape revealed. As it dropped closer to the rooftops of Grayston, Carter could finally see it clearly. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't a ship. It was alive. A massive creature drifted above the town. Its body looked long and thin, like a serpent stretching across the sky. But instead of scales, it was covered in thousands of thin black tendrils, each one dangling downward like strings in the darkness. The tendrils stretched toward the houses below, toward the sleeping people inside. And Carter realized something horrifying. The creature wasn't hunting. It was feeding. The feeding. One of the tendrils slowly lowered toward a nearby house. It slipped through the open bedroom window like smoke. Carter held his breath. Seconds later, the tendril slowly rose back into the sky, and something traveled through it. A faint glowing mist. The creature absorbed it instantly. Then another tendril lowered. And another. The monster was moving slowly across Grayston. House by house. Person by person. Taking something from every sleeping resident. What it was taking, Carter didn't understand at first. But then he saw the pattern. The creature wasn't taking blood, or bodies, or anything physical. It was taking something else. Dreams. Every time a tendril touched someone sleeping, a faint glowing mist left their body. Their dreams. Their thoughts. Their memories. The creature was feeding on them. The warning makes sense. Carter suddenly understood the message on the television. Do not wake them. The entire town had been forced into sleep. Not to protect the people, but to protect the creature, because it could only feed on people who were dreaming. And if someone woke up, the creature would notice them. The terrifying realization. Carter slowly stepped backward toward the hospital doors. Because he wasn't asleep. He wasn't dreaming. He was awake. Which meant he was the only person in the entire town the creature could see. The first tendril. One of the black tendrils suddenly stopped moving. It hovered above the hospital, slowly turning, searching. Carter froze. The tendril moved again. Lower, closer, like a snake sensing movement in the dark. Then it pointed directly at him. The creature had noticed. The hunt begins. The tendril shot downward instantly. Carter dove through the hospital doors just as it smashed against the pavement outside. The glass doors shattered. The tendril pulled back into the sky. Then 3 more dropped toward the building. The creature had stopped feeding. Now it was hunting. Inside the hospital, Carter ran through the empty hospital hallway. Sleeping nurses lay against the walls. Doctors slumped over desks. None of them moved. None of them woke. The entire town remained trapped in the forced sleep. Another crash shook the building as a tendril punched through the roof above. Plaster fell from the ceiling. The creature was trying to reach him. The second message. Carter ran back toward the hospital lobby. The television screen flickered again. Static filled the screen. Then the same black text appeared. But the message had changed. You are not supposed to be awake. Carter stopped in front of the screen. Who are you? New words appeared instantly. We tried to put you to sleep. Carter's heart pounded. We. The television crackled again. You resisted. Another crash shook the building. A tendril smashed through the ceiling behind him. Carter jumped back. Then help me stop it. The screen went silent for several seconds. Then the final message appeared. The terrifying truth. We cannot stop it. Carter felt his chest tighten. Why not? The reply came slowly. Because it is not hunting us. Carter stared at the screen. Then who? The words appeared one by one. IT is hunting you. The light in the sky. Outside, the massive creature shifted its position above Grayston. Its body twisted across the sky like a living storm. All the tendrils slowly pulled away from the houses. The feeding had stopped completely. Thousands of black strands now pointed toward the hospital. Toward the only person still awake in the town. The final warning. The television displayed one last message. You have 1 hour before it finds you. Carter swallowed. And then what? The final words appeared. Slowly, deliberately. You will never sleep again. At that exact moment, every tendril outside the hospital began moving, and all of them were reaching for him. The hospital walls trembled again as another tendril slammed into the roof. Plaster rained down across the hallway. Officer Daniel Carter stood in front of the flickering television screen, staring at the final message. You have 1 hour before it finds you. The screen went dark. Wait! Carter shouted, but the signal was gone. Outside, the massive creature continued to shift above Grayston, its enormous body stretching across the sky like a living shadow. And now every tendril pointed toward the hospital. Toward him, the sleeping town. Carter ran through the hospital corridors again. Every person he passed remained completely still. Doctors, patients, nurses, all breathing slowly, all trapped in the same deep sleep. They looked peaceful, but Carter knew now it wasn't natural. Someone had forced the entire town into sleep, and whoever had done it had tried to do the same to him. But it hadn't worked. The question, why? Why was Grayston asleep? Why had he resisted it? And most importantly, who had been sending those messages? Carter needed answers, and the only place in town that might still have them was the emergency communications center next door, the police station. 5 minutes later, Carter burst into the Grayston Police Department. The same silence waited for him. Officers slept in their chairs. Dispatchers slumped over keyboards. Computer screens glowed quietly in the dark. Every clock on the walls read the same time. 2:17 a.m. Carter walked slowly to the central desk. A radio scanner sat there, still humming faintly. It was the first working radio signal he had heard since entering town. He grabbed the microphone. Hello? Anyone receiving? Only static answered. Then, a faint voice. The hidden signal. Finally. Carter froze. Who is this? The voice was distorted, barely audible through the radio. But it was human. We thought you were asleep with the others. Carter leaned closer to the speaker. You're the one sending the messages. Yes. Who are you? There was a short pause. Then the voice replied. We are the ones who put the town to sleep. The people watching. The radio crackled again. This is Containment Station 7. Carter frowned. Containment? Yes. Containment of what? The voice hesitated, then said quietly, The thing hunting you. Carter looked up toward the dark ceiling. You knew that thing was coming. We always know. The hidden network. The voice explained quickly. Across the country, hidden monitoring stations watched for something most people didn't know existed. Creatures, entities, things that appeared only rarely, things that fed on human consciousness, dreams, memories, thoughts, and when those things appeared, the only way to stop them was simple: put everyone to sleep. Why sleep matters. When people are asleep, the voice said, their minds move differently. Carter frowned. What does that mean? In dreams, human consciousness becomes disorganized. The radio crackled. Scattered. Messy. To the creature, sleeping minds are like dim lights. But an awake mind. Carter felt his stomach drop. Is like a lighthouse. The target, the voice continued. The creature cannot see people who are sleeping, but it can instantly detect anyone awake. Carter glanced toward the broken windows. And now it knows I'm here. Yes. Why didn't your sleep signal affect me? There was silence for a moment. Then the voice said quietly, we don't know. The failed protocol. Containment Station 7 had activated something called the Night Protocol, a powerful signal transmitted through television, phones, and emergency broadcast networks. The signal forced the brain into deep sleep within seconds. It worked on almost everyone, but not Carter. For some reason, his mind had resisted it. The terrifying possibility. Has this happened before? Carter asked. The voice on the radio went silent. Too long. Answer me. Finally the reply came. Yes. And what happened? The voice sounded grim now. The creature hunted them. The survivors. Over the past 50 years, there had been 3 other incidents. 3 other towns. 3 other times when someone remained awake. Every time, the creature stopped feeding and started hunting. Every time, the result was the same. Did they survive? Carter asked. No. The creature's purpose. The voice explained one more terrifying detail. The creature normally fed slowly, quietly, moving across sleeping populations like a shadow. But when it found someone awake, something changed. The creature became obsessed, focused. It would stop feeding entirely, just to hunt that one person, because an awake human mind contains something far more valuable than dreams. The true food. Conscious thought, the voice said. Awareness. Fear. A fully awake mind produced energy far stronger than dreams. To the creature, a waking human was a feast. And Carter was the only one in Greyston. The countdown. Carter checked his watch again. Still frozen at 2:17. But he knew the hour was already ticking down. The creature was closing in. I need a way out of town, Carter said. You can't leave. Why not? If you drive beyond the town limits, the sleep signal ends. Carter frowned. And? Everyone will wake up. The horrible choice. If the townspeople woke up, the creature would suddenly see thousands of awake minds. Greyston would become a feeding ground. Thousands of people would die. But if Carter stayed, the creature would eventually catch him. And when it did, no one knew what would happen. The final secret. There may be another option, the voice said. Carter leaned closer. What? There is an older containment method. What kind? The voice hesitated, then said quietly, a trap. Beneath the town, under Greyston, the voice continued, there is an underground facility. A containment chamber built decades ago. For creatures like this. Carter frowned. You've done this before. Yes. And the trap works. The radio crackled. For a while. The plan. To activate the chamber, Carter would need to reach the old mining tunnels beneath the town. Deep underground, the creature would follow him. And once it entered the chamber, Containment Station 7 could seal it. But there was one problem. A big one, Carter said. Yes. The creature has to follow you inside. The impossible task. Carter looked up toward the ceiling again. The enormous shadow still moved across the sky above the hospital. Hundreds of tendrils searching the streets. Looking for him. You want me to lead that thing underground? Yes. And then what? The voice answered quietly. Then we lock you both inside. The last chance. Carter went silent. Is there any other option? No. The voice sounded tired now. We are out of time. Outside the station windows, the massive creature began descending lower into the town. tendrils sliding across rooftops. Searching faster now. More aggressively. It was getting closer. Much closer. The final words. The voice on the radio spoke one last time. The entrance to the tunnels is beneath the old Grayston courthouse. Carter grabbed his keys. And once I'm inside. Run. How long until it catches me? The voice answered honestly. Not long. The hunt tightens. Carter stepped outside the police station. The sky above Grayston looked alive now. The creature had lowered itself almost to rooftop level. Thousands of tendrils sweeping through the streets. And slowly, several of them turned toward him. It had found him again. The 1-hour hunt. The voice on the radio whispered through the speaker in his hand. Officer Carter, the hunt has begun. Carter jumped into his patrol car and slammed the door. The engine roared to life. Behind him, dozens of black tendrils shot across the street, trying to grab him. Carter hit the gas. The cruiser sped toward the courthouse, toward the underground tunnels, toward the only trap that might stop the creature. But deep in the sky above Grayston, the creature began moving faster, and every tendril followed the same path. The path of the only human still awake. The patrol car roared through the empty streets of Grayston. Officer Daniel Carter gripped the steering wheel as the courthouse came into view at the end of Main Street. Behind him, the sky moved. Not clouds, not wind. The creature was descending lower. Its enormous body now stretched just above the rooftops, blocking out entire sections of the night sky. And the tendrils, hundreds of them now swept across the streets like black rivers, searching, hunting, for the only mind still awake. For him, the courthouse, the Grayston courthouse stood in the center of town like an old forgotten monument. Tall stone pillars, dark windows, a rusted iron gate surrounding the front steps. Carter slammed the patrol car to a stop at the base of the stairs. He jumped out and ran. Behind him the tendrils slammed into the street, cracking pavement as they struck the ground. They were getting closer, much closer. Inside the building, Carter burst through the courthouse doors. The lobby was silent. Dust floated through the air. The courthouse had been closed for years, replaced by a newer building across town. Old wooden benches lined the walls. A massive staircase curved upward toward the courtroom floors. But Carter wasn't going up. He was going down. The hidden entrance. The voice from Containment Station 7 crackled through his radio. Basement level. Look for the old records room. Carter ran through a hallway and shoved open the stairwell door. The basement stairs groaned beneath his boots. Behind him, a loud crash echoed above. Something had landed on the courthouse roof. The creature was already here. The records room. The basement smelled like damp stone and old paper. Carter ran past rows of metal filing cabinets. The records room stretched deep beneath the building. Boxes of decades-old documents filled every shelf. This place is huge, Carter muttered. Look for a steel door, the voice said through the radio, marked with a triangle symbol. Carter pushed deeper into the room. Then he saw it, at the far wall, half hidden behind shelves. A massive steel door, and carved into its surface, a triangle with a circle inside it. The forgotten facility. Carter pulled the door open. Cold air rushed out. Beyond the doorway stretched a long concrete tunnel descending deeper underground. Lights flickered weakly along the ceiling. Found it, Carter said. You're entering the old containment facility, the voice replied. How old? There was a pause. Built in 1962. Carter frowned. That's 60 years ago. Yes. And you've never used it? Another pause. Not successfully. The tunnel. Carter stepped inside and began moving quickly down the tunnel. The door behind him slammed shut automatically. Heavy metal locks clanged into place. Great, Carter muttered. Above him, the courthouse ceiling shook violently. The creature was tearing through the building. It knew exactly where he was. Deeper underground. The tunnel stretched farther than Carter expected. Concrete walls. Old electrical cables running along the ceiling. Occasional red emergency lights blinking in the darkness. It looked less like a mine, and more like a bunker. What exactly did you build down here? Carter asked. A trap. You said that already. No, the voice corrected. We built a prison. The old logs. Halfway down the tunnel, Carter passed a small control room. Dust-covered monitors lined the walls. Old tape recorders sat on metal desks. Curiosity slowed his steps. Carter pressed play on one of the tape machines. The recording crackled to life. A man's voice filled the room. "This is Containment Log 11, Grayston Facility." The voice sounded frightened. "We captured the entity 2 weeks ago." Carter froze. "Captured?" The truth emerges. The voice on the tape continued. "Initial containment was successful, but the entity has begun affecting the staff." Carter's pulse quickened. The tape hissed softly. "It enters their dreams. It speaks to them while they sleep. It learns." The terrifying discovery. Carter looked around the control room. Old photographs hung on the wall. Pictures of scientists, military personnel, engineers, dozens of people who had once worked here. None of them smiling. Every photo looked tense, afraid. The final tape. Carter grabbed another tape and pressed play. The recording started immediately. A woman's voice this time. Panicked. "This is emergency log number 24. We were wrong about the entity. It isn't feeding on dreams." Carter leaned closer. "Dreams are just the doorway. The real purpose." The woman's voice shook. "The entity is searching through human minds. For information. For knowledge. For something it lost." Carter frowned. What did it lose? The tape crackled. "We think it's trying to remember where it came from." The disaster. The recording suddenly became chaotic. Shouting voices. Alarms blaring. "We have multiple containment breaches." It's inside their heads. People screamed in the background. Then the woman spoke again. Breathless. Terrified. "It's learning too fast. It knows how to escape." The final warning. The last part of the tape played slowly. "We can't kill it. We can't contain it forever. So we're sealing the entire facility." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And if anyone ever hears this, don't wake it again." The tape stopped. The horrifying realization. Carter slowly turned back toward the tunnel. "You didn't build this place to trap the creature." The voice from Containment Station 7 went silent. "You built it because you already had it once." Still silence. "Didn't you?" Finally the voice answered. "Yes." "And it escaped?" "Yes." "The true origin. That thing above Grayston," Carter said slowly. "It came from this facility." "Yes." "And now you want me to lead it back here?" "Yes." Carter let out a bitter laugh. "So you can lock it up again?" "Yes." "And if it escapes again?" The voice didn't answer. The end of the tunnel. Carter continued deeper underground. Finally the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. The containment room. Huge metal walls surrounded a circular platform in the center. Gigantic steel doors hung from the ceiling above it. "Stand in the center," the voice said. "Once the entity enters the chamber, we drop the doors." The problem. Carter looked around the enormous room. "How does the creature get down here?" The voice answered quietly. "It's already following you." At that exact moment, a deafening crash echoed through the tunnels behind him. Concrete shattered. The ceiling cracked. Black tendrils burst through the tunnel entrance like a flood of living shadows. The creature had found the facility, and it was coming inside. The hunt underground. Hundreds of tendrils slid across the floor toward Carter. The creature's massive body began forcing its way into the tunnel behind them. The chamber lights flickered violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Get to the center platform," the voice shouted. Carter ran. The tendrils raced after him. Closer. Closer. Almost within reach. The trap! Carter dove onto the center platform. The tendrils surged forward. And the creature followed. Its enormous shadow filling the entire tunnel behind it. The moment its body crossed into the chamber, the voice yelled through the radio. "Now!" The steel doors dropped from the ceiling, slamming into the ground with a thunderous crash, sealing the chamber. Silence. For several seconds, nothing moved. Carter slowly turned around. The creature was inside the containment chamber, with him, and the steel doors had locked. The terrible truth. The voice from the radio returned. "We did it." Carter stared up at the creature's enormous body twisting against the chamber walls. "You said this was a trap." "Yes." But you forgot one thing. What? Carter's voice dropped to a whisper. You locked me in here with it. The steel doors slammed shut with a thunderous echo. The containment chamber fell silent. Officer Daniel Carter stood on the center platform, breathing hard, staring up at the creature that filled the enormous room. For the first time, he could truly see it, and the sight made his stomach turn. The thing in the chamber. The creature's body stretched across the chamber ceiling like a living storm cloud. It wasn't solid. It looked like a massive shadow made of moving smoke and darkness. Thousands of thin black tendrils dangled from it, drifting slowly in the air like roots hanging from the sky. Some brushed the steel floor. Others coiled around pipes and cables along the walls. The creature was larger than Carter had realized. Much larger. Even compressed inside the containment chamber, its body still filled the entire space. It was like locking a hurricane inside a box. The first movement. One tendril slowly lifted off the ground. Then another. And another. They began moving toward Carter. Not quickly. Not aggressively. Just slowly reaching out. Like fingers exploring the air. Carter stepped backward on the platform. Containment Station 7, he said into the radio. The creature's moving. We see it, the voice replied. How long will these doors hold? The voice hesitated. Long enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one we have. The creature's focus. The tendrils stopped moving. All of them. Then slowly, every single one turned toward Carter. The creature had completely lost interest in everything else in the chamber. The walls. The machinery. The doors. Everything. Now it focused only on him. The feeling. Carter suddenly felt something strange. A pressure. Not physical. Something inside his head. Like a faint vibration behind his eyes. He blinked hard. What the hell? The pressure grew stronger. A low hum filled his ears. The chamber lights flickered once. Then, a voice appeared in his mind. The first words. You are different. Carter froze. The voice wasn't coming from the radio. It wasn't echoing in the chamber. It was inside his head. Clear. Cold. Ancient. You are awake. Carter slowly looked up at the creature. You're talking to me. Yes. His pulse pounded in his ears. Containment Station 7's voice burst through the radio. Carter, what's happening? Carter swallowed. It's communicating. The radio fell silent. The creature's curiosity. You're not like the others. The voice drifted through Carter's mind like distant thunder. They sleep. They dream. But you remain awake. Carter forced himself to speak. Why are you here? The creature didn't answer immediately. Its tendrils drifted closer, hovering in the air around him. Not touching, just watching. Then the voice returned. I am remembering. The lost memory. Carter frowned. Remembering what? The chamber lights dimmed. The creature's massive body shifted slowly against the ceiling. Where I came from. Carter remembered the recording from the control room. The scientists had said the same thing. You're searching through people's minds. Yes. Human thoughts are useful. The voice seemed to taste the words. Your species remembers many things. Why do you need our memories? The answer came slowly. Because mine were taken. The prison. Carter stared at the steel walls surrounding the chamber. They captured you here before. Yes. They opened my mind. The voice became colder. Sharper. They tried to take what I knew. Carter felt a chill crawl down his spine. What did you know? The creature paused again. Longer this time. As if the question itself triggered something deep inside its memory. Then the answer came. The door. The door. Carter frowned. What door? The creature's tendrils suddenly twitched violently. The chamber lights flickered again. The door between worlds. Carter felt the pressure in his skull increase. Images began flashing across his mind. Not his own memories. Something else. Something vast. Endless darkness. Strange alien landscapes. Stars dying in silent explosions. Civilizations rising and collapsing. Worlds disappearing into nothing. The creature had seen things no human mind could understand. And now Carter was seeing them too. The pain. Carter dropped to one knee. The visions flooded his mind faster. Too fast. Stop. But the creature continued. I crossed the door long ago. I traveled far. I fed. The visions changed again. Now Carter saw Earth. Cities glowing at night. Millions of people dreaming. Human minds shining like tiny lights across the planet. To the creature, they looked like food. The realization. You came here to feed, Carter gasped. At first, the voice shifted. But something else called to me. What? Memory. The creature's tendrils lowered closer to Carter, hovering just inches from his face. Humans remember everything. Stories, history, knowledge. You preserve your past. And you don't. No. The voice sounded almost sad. The forgotten origin. My kind has forgotten where we began. The chamber lights dimmed further. We crossed the door so many times. We lost our beginning. Carter struggled to breathe. So you're searching human minds for answers? Yes. Somewhere in your species' memories. Someone saw the door. The horrible possibility. Carter's heart began racing. You think humans discovered it? Perhaps. Perhaps not. The tendrils drifted closer still. But you are different. Carter's stomach tightened. Different how? You resisted the sleep. The dangerous mind. The creature's voice sharpened. Your mind is strong. Stronger than most. You stayed awake when the others fell. Carter shook his head. I don't know why. I will find out. The tendrils finally touched him. One brushed his forehead. Cold. Like ice made of shadow. The invasion. The pressure inside Carter's skull exploded. His memories began flashing past his eyes. His childhood. Police training. Every case he had worked. Every face he had seen. The creature was searching his mind. Digging through his thoughts. Looking for something. Anything. The discovery. Suddenly, the creature froze. All movement stopped. The pressure inside Carter's head vanished instantly. Impossible. Carter collapsed onto the platform, gasping for air. What did you find? The voice whispered inside his mind. You. Carter blinked. What about me? The creature's voice became darker, almost fearful. You have already seen the door. The impossible truth. Carter shook his head weakly. No, I haven't. Yes. Images flashed through Carter's mind again. But this time they were his own memories. A case. 5 years ago. A missing hiker's report in the mountains. A strange cave. A tunnel that seemed to twist into impossible shapes. And at the very end, a massive circular structure carved into stone. A door. A door Carter had walked past without understanding. The awakening. The creature's tendrils began moving wildly again. Excited. Hungry. You have seen it. You stood before it. Carter's blood ran cold. That cave, you're saying it was. The door. The creature's voice thundered inside his mind now. And you remember where it is. The new hunt. Outside the chamber, alarms suddenly blared through the facility. Containment Station 7's voice burst through the radio. Carter, something's wrong. What now? The entity's energy levels are spiking. Carter looked up. The creature's body had begun glowing faintly with dark light. The steel walls around them started to bend, groaning under pressure. What's happening? Carter asked. The voice inside his mind answered first. I remember now. The chamber lights exploded in a shower of sparks. Steel doors trembled violently, and the creature whispered one final sentence into Carter's thoughts. You will take me back to the door. The containment chamber groaned like a sinking ship. Steel walls bent inward. Bolts snapped. The massive doors that had sealed the creature inside trembled violently, their metal frames cracking under pressure. Officer Daniel Carter staggered to his feet on the platform. Above him, the creature's enormous body twisted and pulsed with dark energy. It was changing, growing stronger. The moment it had discovered the memory inside his mind, something had awakened. The alarms. Red emergency lights flashed across the chamber. Sirens howled through the underground facility. Containment Station 7's voice burst through Carter's radio. Carter, the entity's energy output is increasing exponentially. I noticed. Carter shouted back. One of the chamber's steel support beams suddenly snapped in half with a deafening crack. Concrete dust rained down from the ceiling. How long before it breaks out? Carter asked. The voice hesitated. Minutes. The creature speaks again. Inside Carter's mind, the ancient voice returned. The prison weakens. Carter glared upward. You're doing this? Yes. The creature's tendrils spread across the chamber walls, pressing against the metal as if testing its strength. Your species trapped me once. You will not do it again. You're not leaving this room. The creature almost seemed amused. You misunderstand. A violent shockwave rattled the chamber. Steel panels split apart along the walls. You will help me leave. The memory. Images flooded Carter's mind again. The cave. The mountain trail. The strange stone doorway hidden deep underground. A place he had tried to forget. 5 years ago, Carter had been part of a search team looking for 2 missing hikers. They had found the cave by accident. A massive tunnel carved deep into the mountain. And at the end of it, a perfectly circular stone door embedded in the rock, covered in symbols none of them could understand. The hikers had never been found, and the cave had later been sealed by the authorities. Carter had never gone back. Until now. The demand. You will take me there. The creature's voice echoed through Carter's skull like thunder. No, you do not have a choice. Another explosion ripped through the containment chamber. A section of the ceiling collapsed onto the floor. The creature pushed harder against the walls. The steel doors began bending outward. Containment Station 7's voice shouted through the radio. Carter, the chamber is failing. I can see that. If the entity escapes, the entire region will be exposed. Carter clenched his fists. What do you want me to do? The answer came quietly. Lead it away from the town. The plan. Containment Station 7 had already run the numbers. If the creature remained in Grayston, it would wake the entire population. Thousands of people would become targets. But if Carter led it toward the mountains, the damage might be contained. You want me to give it what it wants, Carter said bitterly. Yes. And then what? Silence. You don't have a second plan, do you? The voice finally answered. No. The collapse begins. The chamber shook violently. A deep tearing sound echoed through the room. One of the giant steel doors ripped halfway out of its frame. Dark tendrils pushed through the opening like black smoke. The creature was almost free. Carter. The voice inside his head became softer now. Almost persuasive. You have already seen the door. You know the path. Carter stared up at the creature. And if I take you there, then I will remember everything. And after that, the creature didn't answer. But Carter already knew the truth. Nothing good would come from opening a doorway between worlds. The escape. The second steel door finally snapped. Metal screamed as it tore loose. The creature surged forward through the opening. Tendrils flooded into the tunnel beyond the chamber. Containment Station 7 shouted through the radio. Carter, you have to move. Carter ran. The underground chase. The tunnel shook violently as the creature forced its massive body through the facility. Concrete walls cracked. Pipes burst. Water sprayed across the floor. Behind Carter, hundreds of tendrils slithered across the ground, chasing him through the darkness. Run. The creature's voice echoed in his mind. Run to the door. Carter sprinted down the tunnel toward the exit. Debris fell from the ceiling behind him. The creature was destroying the facility as it moved. Nothing could stop it now. Back to the surface. Carter burst through the steel door at the end of the tunnel and climbed the courthouse basement stairs 2 at a time. Behind him, the tunnel exploded outward as the creature forced its way upward. He reached the main courthouse hallway. Shattered glass covered the floor. The roof had collapsed in several places. Through the broken ceiling, Carter could see the night sky again. The creature's massive body poured out of the building behind him like living darkness. The sleeping town. Outside, Grayston still slept. Cars remained parked where their drivers had stopped. Lights still glowed inside quiet houses. The night protocol signal continued, holding the town in deep sleep. But Carter knew that wouldn't last forever. If the creature fed again, people would wake. And when they did, the hunt would begin. The patrol car. Carter jumped into his patrol car and slammed the door. The engine roared to life. Behind him, the courthouse exploded outward as the creature emerged fully into the open air. Its massive body stretched across the sky once more. But this time, it wasn't searching. It knew exactly where Carter was, and where he was going. The road to the mountains. The mountain road began just outside Grayston, a winding highway climbing through thick forests and steep cliffs. Carter pushed the car faster. 80 miles per hour. The creature followed above him, drifting through the sky like a storm cloud. Tendrils reached down occasionally, brushing the tops of trees as they passed. The forest seemed to shrink away from it. Animals fled. Birds scattered. Even the wind seemed to avoid the creature. The long memory. You remember the way. Carter gritted his teeth. Yes. Good. The creature's voice carried something new now. Excitement. Soon, the door will open. Carter's grip tightened on the steering wheel. You think that doorway leads back to your world? Not my world. The voice corrected him. The first world. The origin. Carter's stomach twisted. The place where your kind began. Yes. And if you open it? The creature's voice echoed like distant thunder. Then the others will come. The terrifying truth. Carter felt the blood drain from his face. How many others? The creature answered calmly. Billions. The road curved sharply along the mountainside. Ahead, the dark outline of the mountain range rose against the horizon. The cave was somewhere up there, hidden among miles of forest and rock. Carter knew the path. He had walked it once before, but now he realized something horrifying. He wasn't just leading the creature to the door. He might be leading it to the end of the world. The final words. The creature spoke one last time as the mountains grew closer. You will show me the door. Carter stared at the road ahead. The forest swallowed the highway as it climbed higher into the mountains. Behind him, the creature drifted silently through the sky. Waiting. Watching. Ready. And somewhere deep in the mountains, the ancient stone door waited too. The road into the mountains twisted like a black ribbon through the forest. Officer Daniel Carter drove fast. Too fast. The patrol car's headlights cut through the darkness as the road climbed higher into the Grayston Mountains. Behind him, the creature followed. It drifted through the sky like a living storm cloud, massive and silent. Its tendrils brushed treetops and power lines as it moved. Every mile Carter drove only brought it closer to what it wanted. The door. And Carter was the only one who knew where it was. The mountain trail. 20 minutes later the road ended. Carter slammed the brakes. The patrol car skidded to a stop beside a narrow dirt trail leading deeper into the forest. This was as far as any vehicle could go. The cave was still a mile away, hidden somewhere in the mountainside. Carter stepped out of the car. Cold air rushed through the trees. The forest was silent. No insects. No birds. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Above the trees, the creature floated slowly closer. Waiting. The walk back. Carter grabbed a flashlight from the patrol car and started down the trail. His boots crunched softly on gravel and fallen leaves. The forest around him felt wrong. The deeper he walked, the stranger it became. Trees twisted in unnatural shapes. Some trunks bent at impossible angles. Others seemed fused together, their bark melted into each other like wax. Carter remembered noticing that the first time he had been here. 5 years ago. But back then he had thought it was just strange geology. Now he knew better. Something about this place wasn't natural. The first sign. The trail ended at a steep cliff wall. Carter lifted the flashlight. There it was. The cave entrance. A wide opening carved directly into the mountain. But it wasn't shaped by water or erosion. The edges were smooth. Perfectly round. Like something had drilled straight into the rock. Carter stepped closer. The air flowing from the cave felt cold. Not the normal chill of underground tunnels. This cold felt deeper. Older. Like stepping into a place time had forgotten. The creature arrives. Behind him the forest darkened. Carter turned. The creature had arrived. Its massive body hovered just above the trees, tendrils hanging down like black vines. It did not enter the forest. It waited. Watching. Go inside. The voice echoed inside Carter's mind. Carter swallowed. You're not coming. Not yet. Why? The creature answered calmly. The door lies deeper. Into the cave. Carter stepped into the darkness. The temperature dropped instantly. His flashlight beam revealed a tunnel stretching deep into the mountain. But the walls looked wrong. They weren't rough like natural stone. They were smooth. Carved. Perfectly shaped. And the tunnel was enormous. Far larger than any cave system should be. Someone, or something, had built this place. The endless tunnel. Carter walked deeper into the mountain. The tunnel stretched on and on. The air inside smelled strange. Metallic, almost electric, as if the stone itself carried some kind of energy. The deeper Carter walked, the more he noticed something else. Symbols. They covered the walls. Hundreds of them. Strange circular markings carved into the rock. Lines connecting them like maps. Or diagrams. None of them looked human. The old memory. Carter remembered the first time he had seen them. Back when the search team found this cave. One of the hikers had disappeared inside. When Carter and the others followed the trail. They had reached this exact tunnel. But something had frightened the team. Something they couldn't explain. A feeling. Like being watched by something massive. They had turned back. And the cave had been sealed soon after. Officially the area was declared unstable. But Carter now realized the truth. The cave wasn't sealed to protect people from falling rocks. It was sealed to keep people away from the door. The tremor. The mountain suddenly trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, the creature had moved again. Carter could feel it now. Its presence pressing against the entrance of the cave. Waiting. Watching. Hurry. Carter moved faster. The chamber. The tunnel finally opened into a massive underground chamber. Carter stepped inside and stopped. The flashlight beam swept across the cavern, and his breath caught in his throat. The chamber was enormous, at least the size of a football field. The ceiling stretched hundreds of feet above. But what filled the room was far more shocking. The walls were covered in machinery. Ancient machinery. Gigantic rings of metal embedded in the stone. Massive pillars covered in the same strange symbols. And at the center of the chamber, the door. The door. It stood nearly 50 feet tall. A perfect circle carved into the rock. Smooth black stone surrounded its edges, covered in glowing lines that pulsed faintly with light. The same symbols from the tunnel stretched across its surface. But these symbols moved, slowly shifting like living writing. Carter's heart pounded. The door looked exactly the same as it had 5 years ago. Except now, the symbols were glowing brighter, as if the door knew someone had returned. The creature enters. Behind Carter, darkness poured into the chamber. The creature finally entered the cave. Its massive body slid through the tunnel like liquid shadow. Tendrils spread across the cavern walls, touching the ancient machinery, testing the symbols carved into the stone. Yes, the voice in Carter's mind sounded almost joyful now. This is the place. Carter stared at the door. You said you forgot where you came from. I did. The creature's tendrils stretched toward the circular doorway, hovering just inches from the glowing symbols. But now I remember. The truth of the door. Carter slowly stepped closer to the door. What exactly is it? The creature answered simply. A gate. Between worlds. Between realities. The glowing symbols brightened. The entire chamber vibrated softly, as if the ancient machine had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for the creature to return. The warning. Containment Station 7's voice suddenly crackled through Carter's radio. Carter, we're picking up massive energy readings. Carter didn't look away from the door. You were right. About what? The door is real. The voice on the radio went silent, then whispered, Oh no. The activation. One of the creature's tendrils touched the door. The reaction was immediate. The symbols flared with blinding white light. The entire circular doorway began rotating slowly inside the stone. Deep mechanical sounds echoed through the cavern. Grinding. Turning. Awakening. It still works. Carter's chest tightened. You're opening it? Yes. And when it opens? The creature's voice became something terrifying. Something ancient and hungry. My kind will return. The first crack. The center of the door split open. A thin line of darkness appeared. But it wasn't normal darkness. It moved, swirling slowly like a storm trapped behind glass. Cold air poured into the chamber. Air that didn't belong on Earth. The sound from beyond. Then Carter heard something. Faint at first. A distant rumbling. Like thunder. But deeper. He stepped closer to the opening and realized what the sound really was. Movement. Something enormous was moving on the other side of the door. More than one thing. Many things. The realization. Carter turned slowly toward the creature. You said billions. Yes. And they are coming. The creature answered calmly. They have been waiting a very long time. The door opened wider. The darkness behind it grew deeper. and from somewhere beyond the gate, something massive began moving toward the opening. The circular door continued to open. Stone plates slid apart with a deep grinding sound that echoed through the enormous cavern. Officer Daniel Carter stood frozen in front of it, unable to look away. Behind the opening was not a tunnel, not another cave, not even darkness as humans understood it. It was something else entirely, something vast. The other side. At first Carter thought he was looking into deep space. Blackness stretched infinitely beyond the doorway. But it wasn't empty. Shapes moved inside it. Massive shapes, far larger than the creature floating above him. They drifted slowly through the darkness like enormous shadows in an endless ocean. And there were many of them, too many to count. The creature beside Carter spoke softly inside his mind. Home. Carter's pulse pounded. That's where you came from. Yes. And all of them, they are like you. Yes. The world beyond. As the door opened wider, the view became clearer. The other side wasn't space. It was a world. A place where gravity didn't seem to work the same way. Massive floating structures drifted through the darkness. Some looked like mountains broken apart and suspended in midair. Others looked like enormous rings of black stone spinning slowly. And between them, the creatures moved. Billions of them. An entire civilization of shadow-like beings. The sky of that world. Above the floating structures burned something Carter could barely understand. It looked like a star, but it was wrong. Instead of shining white or yellow, it glowed a deep purple. And it pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Every pulse sent waves of strange energy across the sky. The creatures drifted through those waves as if they were water, living inside them, feeding on them, existing in a world completely different from Earth. The first arrival. Something large moved closer to the doorway, much larger than the creature that had followed Carter. A massive shape slowly approached the opening. Tendrils longer than skyscrapers drifted behind it. Its body stretched across miles of darkness. Carter felt his knees weaken. That thing, it's enormous. It is an elder. The creature's voice carried respect now, older than most of my kind. The giant shape continued drifting toward the door. Its tendrils reached forward curiously, testing the boundary between worlds. The signal. Suddenly the ancient machinery surrounding the door came alive. Lights flickered across the stone pillars. Symbols flashed across the walls of the cavern. Containment Station 7's voice screamed through Carter's radio. Carter! The gate is transmitting a signal. To where? Everywhere. Carter stared at the door. What kind of signal? The answer came quickly. A beacon. Earth revealed. The symbols on the door began projecting images. Not random ones. Maps. Detailed maps. Of Earth. Continents appeared in glowing lines. Oceans shimmered across the stone surface. Cities lit up like clusters of stars. Human civilization displayed itself across the ancient machine. Carter's stomach twisted. The door wasn't just opening. It was broadcasting, showing the creatures exactly where humanity lived. The invitation. The creature beside Carter spoke again. They see it now. Carter felt sick. You're showing them Earth. Yes. And now they know where we are. Yes. The elder creature on the other side moved even closer. Its enormous tendrils slipped partly through the doorway, testing the air of Earth for the first time. The first contact. The moment one tendril crossed the threshold, the cavern shook violently. Energy surged through the ancient machinery. The symbols flashed brighter, and Carter heard something strange. Voices. Millions of them. Whispers pouring through the doorway like a storm of sound. They weren't speaking English, or any human language, but Carter somehow understood them. They were excited, curious, hungry. The real purpose. You weren't just feeding on dreams, Carter said quietly. The creature answered calmly. No, you were searching for worlds. Yes, worlds with intelligent life. Yes, and when you found one. The creature finished the sentence. We come. The harvest. Carter looked again at the endless creatures drifting beyond the door. How many worlds have you done this to? The creature paused. Many. And what happens to them? They feed us. The elder creature pushed further through the doorway. Half its enormous body now hung inside the cavern. The air temperature dropped drastically. The cavern walls began freezing over with strange black frost. The last defense. Containment Station 7 spoke urgently through the radio. Carter, the machine controlling the gate must have a power core. Where? Somewhere in that chamber. Carter turned quickly. Behind the door stood a massive stone pillar. Thick cables connected it to the circular gate. Energy pulsed through the cables in bright waves. That must be it, Carter said. If you can destroy it, the voice shouted, the gate might close. Might. It's the only chance we have. The creature's warning. The creature hovering near Carter sensed his movement. You are planning something. Carter didn't answer. He ran toward the pillar. Tendrils lashed toward him instantly. He barely dodged them. You said you came here for memories, Carter shouted. Yes. You wanted to remember where you came from. Yes. Carter reached the pillar and placed his hand on the glowing stone surface. Well, congratulations, he said. You remembered. The truth. The creature's voice darkened. You cannot stop this. Carter looked up at the massive elder creature pushing through the gate. More shapes gathered behind it. Dozens. Hundreds. Soon the doorway would be filled with them. You're right, Carter said quietly. I probably can't. He pulled his pistol from his holster and aimed it at the glowing energy core embedded in the pillar. But I can slow you down. The shot. Carter fired. The bullet struck the core directly. The reaction was immediate. The pillar exploded in a burst of blinding light. Energy surged wildly through the chamber. The circular gate shuddered violently. Symbols across its surface began flickering. The opening between worlds started collapsing. The chaos. The elder creature roared. A sound so deep it shook the entire mountain. Its tendrils whipped wildly through the cavern, trying to hold the gate open, trying to force its way through before the doorway vanished. The darkness beyond the gate twisted violently. The other creatures rushed forward desperately, trying to cross before it was too late. The closing door. The circular plates began sliding back together. The doorway shrank rapidly. The elder creature pulled back just in time, but several of its massive tendrils were caught inside the closing gate. The stone plates slammed shut, severing them instantly. The cavern fell silent. The aftermath. The severed tendrils dissolved into black dust on the cavern floor. The creature that had followed Carter drifted backward slowly. You have delayed us. Carter lowered his empty pistol. That's the idea. The creature's voice became cold again. But the door still exists. Carter felt dread settle in his chest. What do you mean? It will open again. The creature drifted closer. And next time, its voice echoed across Carter's mind like distant thunder. We will be ready. Silence filled the cavern. The ancient circular door stood sealed once more in the center of the chamber. The glowing symbols that had once moved across its surface were now dim, flickering weakly like dying embers. Dust drifted slowly through the cold air. Officer Daniel Carter stood beside the shattered energy pillar, his empty pistol still hanging loosely in his hand. For the moment, the gate between worlds was closed. But he knew it wasn't over. The creature remains. Behind him, the creature floated silently in the cavern. Its massive shadow twisted slowly against the ceiling, tendrils drifting across the stone floor like dark vines. It had not attacked again. Not yet. Instead, it watched the door, as if waiting. Carter turned slowly toward it. You said the gate will open again. Yes. How? The creature's voice answered calmly inside his mind. The machine is damaged, not destroyed. Carter glanced at the shattered pillar. Pieces of glowing stone still pulsed faintly beneath the rubble. How long? The creature paused. Years. Perhaps decades. That's not soon. Time means little to my kind. The long game. Carter understood what the creature meant. It didn't care if the gate opened tomorrow, or 50 years from now, or 100. Its species had waited thousands of years before. Waiting longer meant nothing to them. But to humanity, that time would pass quickly. One day someone would find this cave again. Someone would repair the machine, and the door would open. Next time, the creatures would be ready. The voice returns. Containment Station 7 finally spoke again through Carter's radio. Carter, are you still alive? Barely. We saw the energy spike when the core exploded. Carter stared at the door. The gate closed. A long pause followed. Then the voice whispered, Thank God. Carter shook his head slowly. Don't celebrate yet. The truth. Carter explained quickly. The machine wasn't destroyed, only damaged. The door could open again someday. The voice on the radio grew quiet. Then we'll seal the cave. Carter almost laughed. You think rock and steel will stop that thing? The creature behind him moved slightly, as if amused. It will not. The radio crackled again. Then we collapse the entire mountain. That might slow them, Carter said. But eventually someone will dig it up again. Another long silence filled the radio channel. Finally the voice asked the question Carter already knew was coming. What do we do? The ancient machine. Carter studied the enormous door again. The circular plates. The glowing symbols. The ancient mechanisms carved deep into the stone. This thing isn't human technology, he said quietly. No, the voice replied. We think it's millions of years old. Carter frowned. Then someone else built it. Yes. And if they built it? The voice finished his thought. They also knew how to destroy it. The hidden mechanism. Carter walked slowly around the door. The flashlight beam revealed more of the strange machinery surrounding it. Pillars. Cables. Massive stone rings embedded deep into the cavern walls. Then he noticed something strange. At the base of the circular doorway, a narrow gap ran around its entire edge. Almost like a seam. Like the door wasn't carved from the mountain. Like it had been inserted. Wait, Carter whispered. What is it? The voice asked. I think the entire door is a single machine. That's what we believed. No, Carter said. I mean the whole structure. The realization. Carter stepped closer to the door's edge. The seam was clear now. The circular structure had been placed into the mountain like a massive plug. And if that plug were removed, the entire gateway mechanism might collapse. Carter, the voice said nervously. I think I know how to destroy it. How? Carter swallowed. I have to open it. The terrible idea. The radio exploded with protest. Absolutely not. Listen to me, Carter said. If the door opens again, the machine activates. Yes. And when it activates, the internal power systems restart. That's what happened earlier. Carter nodded. Exactly. He placed his hand on the stone surface of the gate. And if I overload the power system while it's open? The voice on the radio went silent. You could destroy the entire structure, it whispered. Yes. But that means the gate has to open again. Carter looked at the creature. It was already watching him. The creature understands. You are planning to open the door again. Carter didn't deny it. Yes. The creature drifted closer, tendrils hovering just above the stone floor. You believe destroying the machine will stop us? That's the plan. The creature paused. Then something strange happened. It laughed. Not with sound. But Carter felt it inside his mind. A deep, ancient amusement. You misunderstand the door. Carter's heart skipped. What do you mean? The secret of the gate. The gate is not the door. Carter frowned. Then what is? The creature's voice echoed through the cavern. The door is only the key. Cold dread spread through Carter's chest. Key to what? The creature answered simply. To the place between worlds. Carter stared at the sealed gateway. You're saying the doorway exists somewhere else? Yes. And this machine just unlocks it? Yes. Carter felt the weight of that truth settle over him. Destroying the door might stop this gate. But the space between worlds would still exist. Another doorway could be built. Another gate could be opened. The only way. Carter looked down at the shattered energy pillar again. Then at the creature. Then back at the sealed gate. What if I destroy both? The creature tilted slightly. Explain. Carter took a slow breath. What if the machine explodes while the gate is open? And something is still inside it. The creature went still. Completely still. For the first time since Carter had met it, it understood his plan. The sacrifice. Containment Station 7's voice came through the radio again. Carter, what are you thinking? Carter didn't look away from the creature. If the gate collapses while something is halfway between worlds, it could destabilize the entire connection. Silence followed. Then the voice whispered. It might collapse the dimensional bridge permanently. That's what I'm hoping. The voice sounded horrified now. But you'd have to be inside the gate when it explodes. Carter nodded slowly. Yes. The final decision. The creature's tendrils drifted closer again. You would destroy yourself. Carter shrugged slightly. If it stops billions of your friends from coming here. Seems like a fair trade. The creature studied him carefully. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then the creature spoke quietly. You humans are fascinating. The last plan. Carter raised his radio one last time. When the gate opens again, he said calmly, you overload the power system. Carter. No arguments. The voice on the radio broke slightly. You won't survive that. I know. Carter stepped toward the ancient door. And neither will it. The beginning of the end. The creature hovered near the sealed gate. Waiting. Watching. Carter placed both hands on the stone surface. The symbols flickered weakly. The machine was still alive. Still capable of opening. And when it did, everything would end. One way or another. The cavern was silent, save for the faint hum of the ancient machinery embedded in the massive stone door. Officer Daniel Carter stood at the threshold, his hands pressed against the cool black surface. Sweat ran down his face, but it wasn't the physical effort that drained him, it was the weight of the choice he had made. Every calculation, every piece of information he had gathered over the past days led to this moment. If he succeeded, billions of beings would be prevented from discovering Earth. If he failed, there was no backup plan. No second chance. The creature floated nearby, its massive shadow stretching across the cavern walls. Tendrils swayed lazily, a mockery of patience. Carter could feel its curiosity, its anticipation. It had finally remembered. Its kind would come, but maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Opening the door. Carter placed both hands firmly on the door. He could feel the subtle vibrations running through the stone, the faint pulse of power trapped inside. The ancient symbols carved into its surface shimmered faintly, almost as if they were alive, responding to his touch. You will do it? The creature asked inside his mind. Its voice was calm but heavy with the weight of inevitability. Carter swallowed. I don't have a choice. With a deep breath, he pressed his palms harder. Slowly, the door began to respond. Plates of stone slid apart with grinding resistance, revealing the swirling black expanse beyond. He could see shapes. Massive shapes drifting slowly in the void between worlds. Billions. Each one impossible in scale, each one alien. And all of them were waiting. The creature exhaled, or at least, that's how Carter imagined it. Finally, the bridge awakens. The energy build-up. Carter took a step forward. His boots echoed on the cavern floor. Every footstep brought him closer to the void, closer to the place between worlds. He could feel the energy pulsing stronger with each step. The stone beneath his hands hummed, and the symbols now blazed in radiant light. Containment Station 7, Carter whispered into his radio. I'm initiating the overload sequence. Stand by. Carter, are you sure about this? The voice replied, trembling. There's no coming back if you do this. I know, he said. I won't let billions of them reach Earth. The ancient machine responded. The rings around the door began spinning. Power surged through the cables and conduits. Sparks flew. The air vibrated, thick with electricity and something far older, far stranger. Carter felt it tug at his mind, memories that weren't his, whispers from beyond the void. He gritted his teeth. It ends tonight. The creature's final words. The creature drifted closer, tendrils brushing the edge of the opening. Carter could feel its immense intelligence probing his thoughts. You will not survive this. I don't have to, Carter said. But the door does. You are curious, human, fascinating, brave, foolish, but necessary. Carter didn't answer. There was no room for words now. Entering the gate. Step by step, Carter moved into the swirling void. The ground beneath him dissolved into darkness. Tendrils of black energy stretched outward, reaching for him, but the force of the machine held him firmly. Around him, the swirling abyss twisted like liquid shadow, shapes too large to comprehend moving beyond the edges of perception. He reached the center, where the energy pulsed most fiercely. A column of pure power shot upward from the void, threatening to engulf everything. Carter placed his hands on the controls embedded in the stone floor, the remnants of the energy core he had partially destroyed earlier. Sparks danced over the console, the system crying out under the strain. Now, he whispered. The overload. Carter activated the sequence. A wave of energy erupted from the machine. The cavern shook violently. Stone cracked. Dust fell from the ceiling. The symbols along the door blazed brighter than the sun, swirling in impossible patterns that made Carter's head spin. No! The creature screamed inside his mind. Not in words, but in thought, a cacophony of fury and confusion. The column of energy shot through the void, consuming the swirling shadows beyond the door. Shapes twisted, shrieking an incomprehensible sound, and then they were gone. Pulled back into the void, swallowed by the collapse of the gate. Carter felt the pull. The void wanted to drag him in with it. Tendrils wrapped around him, tugging at his limbs, trying to stop him. But he held fast, focusing all his will on the controls. The machine groaned, its metal and stone groaning as if in pain. Sparks exploded across the cavern. One final surge, and the circular plates began slamming shut. The collapse. The symbols faded as the door closed. The column of energy recoiled, the void shrinking in on itself. The creature, massive and incomprehensible, tried to pull its tendrils free, but the door's collapse severed them completely. One by one, the beings in the void vanished, retreating into nothingness. Carter felt the ground beneath him shudder violently. Rocks cracked. The ceiling trembled. He knew he had only seconds before the cavern collapsed entirely. "Containment Station 7, he yelled. "Get out of the cave if you can." The radio crackled. "We're evacuating. Be careful, Carter." The sacrifice. Carter didn't move. He couldn't. One hand still on the controls, one on the edge of the door. He felt the immense energy of the collapsing gate surge around him. The machine, ancient beyond reckoning, fought against destruction. The void was closing, but it wasn't giving up easily. A tendril of black shadow shot out one last time, wrapping around his leg. Carter gritted his teeth, pulling with every ounce of strength to keep the sequence active. He could hear the stone groaning, the cavern screaming. The door was almost closed, almost finished, and he could feel the pull of the void, trying to claim him. A final decision settled over him. He clenched his jaw, pushed with all his remaining strength, and let himself fall through the collapsing center, right into the void's pull. The door seals. The cavern erupted in a blinding flash of light. Rocks exploded. Dust and energy tore through the chamber. The door slammed shut with a deafening roar. The void was gone. The energy dissipated. The symbols died. When the light faded, the cavern was silent. Empty. Still. The patrol car that had brought him here lay crushed under debris. The creature was gone. Its presence vanished. The shadow in the cavern no longer moved. Carter was gone too. But so was the gate. Earth was safe. For now. Aftermath. Containment Station 7 arrived hours later, accompanied by a rescue team. They found the collapsed cave. Twisted rock, shattered machinery, and the remains of the patrol car. No trace of Carter remained. The team searched for days, but the man who had closed the door was gone, vanished into the void, remembered only in the whispered reports that spoke of the gate that should never have existed. The mountain was sealed permanently. A new bunker and warning system were installed. Yet every member of the team who had been there remembered the energy, the pulsing symbols, and the alien shapes. A memory too vivid to forget. Some nights, they swore they could hear whispers carried by the wind, far off in the mountains. Shadows that didn't belong. Shapes moving in the corners of vision. And somewhere beyond reality, billions of beings waited, not yet able to reach Earth, but forever aware that a human had dared to close the door between worlds. The legacy. Daniel Carter's name was never spoken publicly. He became one of the silent heroes, a man who sacrificed himself to protect billions. In classified files, his report was simple. Gate destroyed. Threat neutralized. Human world safe. One casualty, Daniel Carter. But those who knew the truth understood. The world owed its continued existence to one man who had stepped into the void and refused to let it consume them all. Somewhere, in some forgotten place, the machine waits. The door may never open again. But humanity sleeps easier tonight, unaware of the horror that was stopped by the courage of one man.